Hi there, welcome to 3Spoonies. We are your hosts, Claire, Joe, and Karen. This is episode number 30, where we discuss branding as a spoonie. Join us as we dive in.
At Grow Radio, we've launched and supported countless podcasts, and we'd love to do the same for you. Just hit record and we'll handle the rest. No editing stress, no technical faff, just a great podcast released exactly when you want. We've helped business owners, coaches, creatives, and community leaders turn their ideas into professional podcasts. Whether you're sharing industry insights, telling incredible stories, or growing your brand, we make the process simple and stress-free. Want to learn more? Our workshops and courses will guide you through everything from planning to promotion. So, if you're ready to bring your podcast to life, let's chat. Message us on social media or reach out to Gary Jones, the founder of Grow Radio. We'd love to help you get started.
I'm Claire from Sparkle's Gift Boutique.
And I'm Joe from Bright Cat Business Solutions.
And I'm Karen from Pony.
We are 3Spoonies navigating our way through life and business with not enough spoons. Today we have James Mossop from the Pink Octopus with us. James, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
So I am James Mossop from the Pink Octopus. I've been here nearly 30 years actually in the design field, but realistically I'm here to help new startup businesses or even those kind of businesses which are kind of new, so maybe 6 to 12 months, to try and kind of work with those guys to maximize their impact when it comes to their visuals. So
as we get into it, Joe is going to take over. I am going to just start by asking, how did you get into what you're doing?
So it's one of those things, and I always kind of think to myself, I can always go back to kind of being a wee kid, sat on my granddad's knee, colouring in the kind of the colouring book, and I often kind of sit there listening to my kind of granddad with praise, and that kind of drove me to do a really good job and kind of keep on going. And whilst at school, I wasn't kind of very educated. I didn't like being at school, but so I kind of sat in the back of the classroom just doodling away. And essentially, I kind of then went to college and went to university, found the passion in graphic design, and basically walked into a job the day after I graduated.
That's not bad. I'm going to pass over to Jo because she will do more talking better than me.
I can do words okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, James, obviously we know you. We are all sporting our little mascots. Mine's very angry. My husband stole him. For those of you who can't see us, we all have tiny pink octopuses, apart from Karen, who's got the big one because he keeps going on tour. He's actually James's octopus. James from the Pink Octopus, in his background, has a lovely Ollie the octopus, and we love that thing. And when we worked with him, he sent us octopuses, which is amazing. So you may see, if you're watching and not listening, you may see them appear randomly during this and the next episode. Anyway, James, so you specialize in startups. That's what you love. I mean, you redid my logo from a concept I had that I'd thrown together in Canva, and you made my beautiful Bright Cat logo, which, if you can see, is behind me. Do you have a specific sort of where you need startups to be before you do their logo, and do you have a process?
It's one of those things. So I have a kind of an onboarding process, which might kind of have about 25 questions, which I kind of go through. Essentially, it kind of narrows, I can kind of narrow it down to the who, what, why. So basically, I get to understand you as the person, the reasons why you created that business, your history. So it could be employment history, it could be a previous business. Essentially, just to get to understand you as the person, and then get to understand the business. So obviously, what you're creating, what you have created, all that kind of nice stuff, which you can then talk about from that point of view. And then we always kind of go into kind of the perfect avatar. What's the goals in your business? Who you're trying to attract? What type of people? Even on the flip of that, what type of people do you not want to attract? Because essentially what I'm doing is kind of, before I even put pen to paper, I can then kind of start questioning those decisions, right? What type of fonts are we going to use? What type of colors? What type of graphic? Do we actually need a graphic? Is it going to be, like, say, purely typographical kind of logo? So what that, like I say, that's kind of building up that picture. As for the kind of the question, what type of stage, in that process, one of the questions, like I say, is who do you want to be working with and what does that look like? If they haven't got a Scooby-Doo what they want to be doing, and normally, especially kind of businesses which you've just created, they probably haven't actually done that themselves. They turn around and probably say, you know what, I can work with every type of business. Well, yes, you probably can, but that's not going to help, from my point of view, crafting that perfect logo to kind of attract their ideal client. So sometimes we'll put a pause on it and give them a little bit of homework to really go through that process to understand, like I say, what it is they're trying to achieve and who they're doing it for. Because without that, yes, I can make a nice graphic and it would look good and it will be unique to that business. But is it actually going to help you achieve those goals in the business? Is it going to attract your ideal client, or is it just got to look nice? So this, sometimes it's, like I say, it's for them doing a bit of soul searching. Other times it might be that when I say that new startup business, they might have been doing it for, I don't know, 3-6 months, and they can have a look at the kind of existing clients, who they're kind of attracting. Are they liking to attract them type of clients in the future? Is it something they want to kind of move away from? So again, they might have a little bit of history to fall back on, but if they don't, then I've got, say, a questionnaire they can kind of go off and start thinking about.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I enjoyed working with you, and if 3Spoonies ever gets a facelift, it'll be James that's doing it. Because he's our man. Have you worked with businesses who are sort of neurodivergent or disabled in any way that actually incorporate it into their logo and into their font?
I was going to say, not incorporated into the look of it. Obviously, I've worked with people with kind of issues, like, say, from that point of view. From a logo itself, we've not kind of really touched upon kind of creating a visual identity which kind of works with those issues.
Okay, like if someone is like got a business that is aimed at the disabled, or it's definitely part of them that they are,
Yeah.
would you advise them to incorporate it?
Well, this is it, and again, it kind of goes back to what you're trying to achieve and all those kind of outcomes. Now, sometimes, if, let's say, for example, we have someone in a wheelchair and they want to attract kind of other kind of individuals which are kind of wheelchair bound, do you need to be that literal to put someone in a wheelchair to say, I work with people in wheelchairs? Or can you create something a little bit more creative, but still have the messaging to appeal to those kind of guys? If you had a graphic which looked nice and then had a tagline underneath it, which then was more relatable, would that have more impact than actually having that visual reminder?
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways to come at it and look at it.
Well, that's it. That's it. Like I say, the bigger picture could be the messaging you're putting out there, the images you're putting out there. You don't necessarily need to put everything. You don't need to be so literal when it comes to creating that logo.
How important is a logo to a business? I know the answer to this one, but I want you to say it.
I was going to say how important it is. I'm going to say it's 100% important, but realistically, let's be honest, if you've started your business, you don't know what you're doing. There's no point coming to me to get that logo created, because then we might be going down the wrong path and then we have to revisit in a couple of months. So whilst I'll say it is important to every business to have a logo, the chances are you probably need to be at the right time to have it.
Yeah.
So if that means having your business running without one until you get that clarity in your business, to get that understanding, to be able to say, now is the time to do it, I would rather you do it that way and not make the mistakes. Because let's be honest, especially small businesses, how many times, if they haven't gone through that process, do you see them rebranding every 6 months? They change the name, they change the look, you can't keep up with what their business is this week or next. So it's like, actually, although it is important, because let's be honest, it's all about first impressions. It's all been kind of getting you looking proper and consistent throughout media, so social media, your email marketing. If you've got that one branding in place, then you can take key elements from it and it carries across where everything, every first kind of touch point from your potential clients. But I'd rather you be in a position to think about it than, like, say, start confusing the people which already know you, because you'll keep on reinventing yourself. You're changing your name, you're changing your colours, because that all that's doing is, like I say, is confusing people, and they haven't got a Scooby-Doo what you're actually doing.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that, James. And as you know, your logo is very much your jumping off point from the rest of your branding. It all goes from there. Please tell us about Pink Octopus and how it came about.
And well, so there's a little tale. So obviously, if we kind of go, when I say I've been working for myself full time for 16 years, I was actually made redundant the day we found out my wife was pregnant. So that kind of kick-started me being self-employed. There's no point me looking for another job, because when our son came along, I would be walking out that job to look after him, and while it was, like, say, his needs. So I kind of started thinking about being self-employed, started kind of reaching out to other businesses. So I looked at design agencies, I looked at kind of local printers, web guys, and says, you know what, if you've got kind of overspill work, or if you kind of think my particular style of work fits a particular client, by all means, I'm more than happy to do kind of white labeling, NDAs, all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until our son really went to school that I had more time on my hands and thought, you know what, instead of working for others, like I say, I had 5 or 6 of these people, which would give me a decent wage per month. Instead of doing that, I wanted to, like I say, try and grow my business and get my own clients as such. So I went networking. So there was a local networking event which kind of opened up right on our doorstep. So I went along, and as you do, if you go in person for the first time, the host will probably take you aside. Oh, what did you think of this? Are you going to come back? All that kind of nice stuff. And I said, yeah, I'll come back. I really liked it. I'll come back. And he says, oh, you know what, James, we encourage literature. So if you've got your flyer, if you've got your business cards, bring it along. You can put it on the table. And also we've got space for pull-up banners. So he said, if you coming along, if you pull-up banner, you can stand at the front, do your intros, and people then can see your pull-up banner and obviously listen to you talk about your intro. And he said, we got a top tip really when it comes to the pull-up banner. People still buy from people. So if you put your face on this pull-up banner, obviously kind of put your logo, what you do and how people contact you, but you kind of build those connections quicker. They can associate you with the business. So I says to him, at the time I was 38, I said, I'm overweight, I'm bald. If I put a picture of me on this pull-up banner, it's probably going to have the opposite effect. But leave it with me and I'll see what I can come up with. So 2 weeks down the line, I had my kind of pull-up banner, I had all my kind of flyers, my business cards. This fella was happy to see I had a pull-up banner, and it was like, oh, James, did you take my advice? And I said, I did, but you might not recognize me. And essentially, that was the birth of the original Pink Octopus. So when you look at the original one, he was actually based on the silhouette of my face, and each tentacle then represented how I can lend a hand in your business. And basically, I was using that all through me being kind of known as James Mossop, freelance graphic designer, and I was looking at kind of rebranding myself. And I was in an in-person networking event just about to start, so I'll pass this fella, and he shouted, "The Pink Octopus fella, I need to have a talk to you about this thing I need producing." And it dawned on me then that people had forgotten who I was, but the association with me and the Pink Octopus. So when I was looking at rebranding, I thought, why don't we just drop James Mossop, freelance graphic designer, and just move into the Pink Octopus?
And I've been to networking meetings, and you are still known as that Pink Octopus guy. You're very well known for that. And it works. I mean, I love your branding. It's amazing. I'm going to pass quickly back over to Claire.
Yes, so we are going to have some spoons full of loveliness, which is lots of great things from our sponsors.
Mad about money. Managing money with ADHD can feel impossible. But Maddie Alexander Grout has been there, done that, and figured out what actually works. Her book, Mad About Money, isn't just about finances. It's about navigating life when you're wired differently. From tackling overwhelm to breaking unhelpful habits, it's packed with practical strategies designed for brains that don't fit the mould. Whether you're late diagnosed or just looking for a way to stop money stress running your life, this book will help you take back control, one small step at a time. Grab your copy today and connect with Maddie on Instagram at Maddie Talks Money for more tips and insights. Are you ready to connect with a community that values honest communication and expertise? The 3Spoonies podcast is your gateway to a growing audience of disabled and neurodivergent business owners. For just £35, your business can stand out with a professionally read mid-episode ad, plus features in our show notes, social media, and on our sponsor page. Need extra value? Upgrade for just £15 to get your ad as an audio and video recording, perfect for your own promotions. We can also offer exclusive bulk deals and flexible payment plans, so you can plan ahead and ensure consistent exposure. Email hello@threespoonies.co.uk to join us in navigating life and business with not enough spoons.
Welcome back. I've been waffling with James. I'm going to give Claire and Karen the opportunity to ask him questions because we've all been through that branding journey, some of us more than once, and some of us more than once on the same thing because it's always evolving. But ladies, any questions for our lovely James?
Yeah, when you get a logo designed, is it better to have something that can resize to anything you might potentially need in the future? Or is it better to concentrate on what you're realistically going to need? So like if you need something teeny wee, concentrate on something that will work well small?
I think it's one of those things, and I think sometimes in my onboarding process, at least, I can't speak for others, but my process, one of the things which I ask is how is it being used? So again, it's like, let's be honest, you're probably going to use on social media. It's probably got to be on an email marketing thing. So all that stuff we probably take for granted, but if it's being used in an unusual fashion, then if I know that before I go into it, I can make sure the design kind of will fit that purpose. So quite quickly, I can give you an example. I was working with a fellow which needed a logo to go on one of his latest wine range. And so we had the brief, we created that kind of graphic, we put the initial kind of stuff in front of him. And he said, "Oh, I really love it, James, but in my mind, it's got to be embossed onto the top foil of the wine thing." So we had to then revisit what we did because it was too complicated. We simplified it, and then like I say, it would then go into that that embossing process. So ever since that kind of scenario, I've made sure I've asked that question: how are you going to use it? Because there's no point me creating something. We go down that kind of whole route of kind of finalizing it and getting you all the assets, and then you turn around and say, I can't use it because of X, Y, Z. So again, you look at certain scenarios, like if you need stuff stitching. So if you've got uniforms, then again, we can take that into consideration when we design it, knowing fine well you need it to go on such and such.
That makes sense. And what about fonts? Do you tend to use fonts that are easily accessible, or would you ever do it that sort of you'd organise for someone to pay a license or something for a really specific font? Is it worth doing that? What's your experience with it?
Well, this is it. I think sometimes I'm conscious when it comes to startup businesses. There's no point saying, "Oh, you know what? I found this perfect font, and it's got to cost you 200 quid to use it," because they're not going to do it. Bigger businesses, which have got a budget, then they'll probably go out their way. If they're not designing that font family themselves, they'll probably go out and find a particular font which they know it's an investment and it's got to be unique to them and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would kind of really kind of consciously look, can I find one which looks nice, and if it's got a kind of a free to use license, and make sure all that's kind of above board, or if we do have to pay for it, then we'll just have to make sure, you know what, this is going to cost 10-15 quid instead of, you know what, let's rule out those ones what cost 500 quid, because let's be honest, no startup business wants to invest that much just onto a font, which, as we've been saying, 6 months down the line, they might change what they're doing, and then they've lost that money anyway.
Yeah, no, that is fair. Have you ever had anyone come to you and say, basically, rip off this other person's idea, or I basically want this, but change it slightly?
Well, this is it. So I talk about the onboarding process. I also have a chat with potential clients before I even start. If someone came to me and says, "Oh, I've got this really kind of idea in mind, and it's similar to this, but we just need to change this and this," I would probably turn around and says, "You know what, you probably don't need to speak to me. You probably don't need me to work on this project, because let's be honest, it could be a good idea, or it might even be, like I say, it might not be the best approach for the business anyway, but you can probably go on to five, you can probably find someone which will do that for you. It's something which I won't do."
We
Like
do like a
the-
man with morals.
Well, this is it. This is it. Like I say, it's different if they've got kind of a mood board and says, "I really like this and this," and that's the starting point. That's totally different. But if they're saying, "Oh, you know what, I really like Adidas's, but can we change the name to this business name and call it a day?" then that's not my job.
Do you have a favourite design that you've done?
I was going to say that there's a couple which come to mind. I'm going to say favourite because I'm going to say all of them are favourite. Otherwise, I'll get people complaining, "Why did you not like mine the most?" But there is a couple over the years which I kind of really think that was a good project. That was a good kind of conclusion. There was a fellow in America which was starting a charity, and I remember kind of creating his logo for his business. And after, I think it was about 7 years, when he decided to close it, that charity had made something like, I think it was like $2 million for charity. So again, I was just a small part in that logo, but that was something which I can kind of say, you know what, I played a role there. There's a woman called Donna Reedy, which several years ago I worked with her, and we created a nice little kind of a graphic, which quite hard to describe, but essentially the D and E merged into an ampersand. So when it was, originally it was called Design and Edit. So then it all kind of came together to create that kind of unique kind of a graphical mark. And then she adapted it for Donna Reedy when she changed her business name. So that's something which kind of comes to mind as well. But I think, to me, the favourite one is the one I'm working on, and then the next favourite one's the one I've got to work on next.
Yeah, I get that. It's kind of like you're in the moment of creating it, and it's kind of like you have that passion for it, and each one is unique and different to itself.
And that's it. And like I say, even we kind of go back to COVID when everyone seemed to be creating social media businesses. There was during a period of 2 or 3 weeks, I might have been rebranding 3 or 4 businesses to be more social media. And although you could say, well, actually, they're exactly the same business and they do exactly the same thing, it was their personality what made them different. It was obviously the name of the business was different. And to me, that's what I enjoyed doing, is be able to sit down and create that finished design, and actually being creative as well. So no project's the same. And like I say, there's no point me picking out and saying, "Oh, this is my favorite," because then the question could be, "What's your worst?" And to me, I've not got any bad logos, because if it's not working, then we keep on at it until me and the client are kind of in a happy agreement. So, but yeah, like I said, that D&E comes to mind as one of the standout conversation.
Is there
Awesome.
a
I mean,
different?
you can't have a bad logo, really, because if it's bad, then you've not finished.
No.
And it reflects on you, because not everybody knows you made the logo,
No.
but someone's going to ask who made that.
And that's it. And that's why I kind of say, it's like, you know what, we'll keep on going until you're 100% happy with it. And I need to be 100% happy with what I've created as well, because to me, that's when my job's done, is that client can turn around, and social media being social media, the first thing that person's going to do is stand up and says, "Look at my new logo." Now, if they've not got the confidence to do that, then they need to kind of feedback, and we'll find out why you haven't got that confidence to stand up and say, "This is my logo," and then we'll tweak it, we'll rework it, because, like I said, there's no point me having finished the project thinking I've done the best of my job and you're not happy with it, because you're not then going to recommend me, you're not going to kind of really be happy with it, and you'll probably be looking for another designer to make those changes or to start again. So yeah, it's only finished when the clients and I and me are happy.
Fab. Karen, you were saying?
Yeah, is there a different approach to designing for print or online, or is it a similar process?
When it comes to, obviously, if we're talking about the logo and brand, pretty much is exactly the same process. If you told me you weren't wanting to go in person networking, so we didn't have to get your logo kind of printed, then that does kind of introduce a different color palette. So obviously, just quickly, if you see things on screen, they're normally RGB. In print, it's CMYK. So when you see the really bright kind of logos and they're almost kind of neon, the chances are on the screen they're never going to work in print because of the color spectrum. So we can do those. If generally design with CMYK in mind, because there's no point me creating something which works on screen, and then you go and go into networking, stand handing out your business cards in front of your pull-up banner, and there's a different look to your business. It might look darker and it's not as bright. So I always kind of work in CMYK first, so then I know it's going to look exactly the same on screen than it would do in print. But like I say, if you turn around and says it's purely an online business, then we don't need to take that into consideration. I'll just change into RGB, and then I know, you know what, these colors which I put to you and never going to be replicated in print in ink, but you're happy with that. I know that if you eventually do go into the in-person again, then that's going to be the drawback.
Yeah, that makes sense, so long as people are forewarned.
Well, that's it.
I mean, my business is purely online, but yeah, occasionally you have to print things because you're going away to do something.
Yeah.
Going out in the world.
Yeah, not like going out in the world, but rarely. But it's nice to have that option. And if your designer can then do that in mind,
Yeah.
it's very helpful. I say, I really like my logo. It prints really well. And something else, yes, words.
Do you think brands sometimes need updating?
I think it's worthwhile having a look internally what the business is doing. Because again, you might kind of had a certain vision, a certain kind of client persona, all that kind of nice stuff which we've been talking about. You might have set up with all the kind of the intentions of keeping that, but then you might find further down the line that you've changed your audience, you've introduced more kind of products, services, and that logo on reflection might not be capturing everything which you do today. It might be holding you back as such to say, well, actually, it only really kind of mentions this, or it only really kind of looks or touches upon that. So it could be worthwhile updating. I always think to myself, is there a reason for that update? Sometimes people are, we've just had enough of it. We've been staring at the same thing for 5 years. We just want an update. I would probably be questioning that to say, well, actually, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And because it all comes down to how much time and effort you actually want to do it as well. It's not an easy thing to kind of rebrand a business. It takes a lot more work to rebrand than it does to kind of create a business, because there's a lot of kind of more factors at play. But yeah, I would look internally. I'd say, does it make sense for me to rebrand? If it does, great stuff. Let's see what we can do. But if it's not, like I say, if it's not broke, if people resonate with you and your business and what those visuals look like, then I'd be probably quite happy just to keep on going.
And you can never change it ever because they don't know your face. They know your brand. Fabulous. Do you have any exciting projects coming up that you're really looking forward to? I know you think every new project's exciting, but you got anything big coming up?
And well, this is it from the kind of the logo and branding world. Obviously, of time of recording, this is just before Valentine's, so I'm creating a Valentine's special. And essentially that's helping, and it is going to run throughout the rest of the February. But what I'm wanting to do, and people might create a logo and have kind of ditched files which they can open thinking they were kind of damaged or anything like that. So I'm trying to help people which can't use their logo to try and fix it. So if that's kind of to vectorize their kind of that JPEG, that's the only copy of their logo they've got, then we'll try and put that in place. So then again, all that will be vectorized. They'll get a business brand, assets, all that kind of nice stuff. So I'm on the look for businesses which can't use their logo. Maybe they've just got a JPEG in instead of a PNG, so that limits to how they can use it. So like I say, a quick win would then, like I say, just to help those guys get back in love with kind of using their logo. But as a project, I'm just about to start one, which is quite, I was going to say, it's quite an interesting project as such. It's out of my comfort zone. So when I say it's startup businesses, it's more of a bigger business. They've changed what they do over the years. So I'm looking forward to kind of really getting deep into that. Like I said, about rebranding. It's kind of analyzing what's working with the business at the minute. Like I say, what can we change, but what do we need to keep the same? So it's a lot of kind of backwards and forwards, a lot of kind of playing and investigating, and hopefully we can then kind of create something which is going to be freshly updated for that bit, if nothing else.
Fabulous. And I don't know about you guys, but I love slapping my logo on everything.
Yeah. I like putting your logo on things, to be fair, as well.
That's true. I do like it when you put things on my logo for me. Oh, on things, my logo on.
I know what you mean, words.
Words.
So thank you for joining us three Spoonies on this episode of Branding as a Spoonie. We would love to know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our weekly podcast and leave us a review. You can find us on social media, and we'd love it if you join us in the Business Success Network Disabled Entrepreneurs Facebook group. And if you like what we do, you can even buy us a coffee. All of the links for today will be in the show notes. We will see you next week for the community questions. Have a great day and keep track of your spoons.